Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums. What advice would you give the young Teeshal?
Dream big. Just dream really, really big. Because I think it's going back to the fact that you only know what you know. When we grew up in the environment that we were in, we saw our uncles and aunts, our parents having a certain type of lifestyle, and we thought that was normal. And you think, yep, that's what I'll strive for. Anything that is beyond that, you almost go, that's actually not logical. I don't think that's going to happen. But you don't know any better, right? And I think now, having seen what I've seen and being exposed and having, the influence of amazing people in my life, I go, anything's possible when you actually have the right guidance around you. So I feel dream big there. You have one life. You gotta make it count. Do whatever it is that you want to do. So don't dream small. Play big.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jane Lim. On the Breadwinning Mums podcast, we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with Teeshal Bal, a fellow breadwinning mum with two girls, Isla and Zara. Teeshal is the founder of Grit Leadership and a program manager for Metro Trains. She shared with us her life story about growing up in Malaysia, moving to Australia before settling down with a man of her choice, and her secrets to creating a rich life full of big dreams. Here we go with Teeshal Bal. Hello, Teeshal.
Hi, Jane. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, it's Friday. Very, very excited. The weekend's just a corner away, which is nice.
Is it a nice sunny predictions where you are, or is it another rainy weekend?
Yeah, I think you just gotta grab the opportunity when it comes about in the month of August. So today I think it was sunny for I don't know 45 minutes. So managed to squeeze in a quick walk and chat like a walking meeting.
Yeah.
And then back in front of the computer after that. So
nice. So thank you so much for finding the time to be here. Really appreciate it, and I'm really excited to see what we'll chat about. But for those listening to us, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing, Jane. So I'm a migrant woman of color, came into Australia from Malaysia about 20 plus years ago, chasing, I was going to say big Australian dream. No, I think it's parents just wanting a better future for family. So we moved across, got into I'm a civil engineer by background. So been in the industry for about 20 years, but very non-linear sort of career pathway where I got into engineering, but couldn't see myself being an engineer for the rest of my life. So got into multiple sort of startup businesses in the area of logistics and also property. So I'm very passionate about property. So used to buy, renovate, and sell. Had a renovation company for a good few years as well. And then got into developments. I actually run a not-for-profit, a certified social enterprise called Grit Leadership, where we tackle gender diversity. I also mentor and coach people to create additional income sources outside their 9 to 5. And I'm also a program manager with Metro Trains. So yeah, do quite a few different things.
Quite a busy woman. So when you started as an engineer, what area of engineer was it? Civil engineer. Okay, great. And then you started dabbling into the property market, flipping the properties. Did you do that yourself? How did you find the inspiration?
Yes, I think that the thinking was to actually get ahead. And I actually found, and this is, I don't know, maybe a little bit I don't know, is it conflicting? No, I'm not quite sure, but I'm just going to speak from the heart. I guess, we study really hard, to get good jobs. And then the intent is to keep climbing the corporate ladder to actually do better and better. And I found that, I was doing what my parents said to do, like study really hard, get good grades and keep studying some more and keep collecting all those different masters and degrees. And I found that wasn't actually giving me a lot of fulfillment, or even from a, I don't know, finance perspective, I wasn't actually getting too much ahead. I sometimes the idea of buying a home, but just because you've got you manage to put a deposit down for a house, or you get a deposit down for a car, that's success. That's not success. That's a whole lot of debt.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think the idea of actually being financially secure was definitely one of the big goals. Coming to Australia, so privileged to be in a country like this where you've got abundance of opportunities. So I think it was just a good opportunity to sort of go, willing to actually work hard and pay the price of success, but then with the hope of actually inspiring others to be able to do the same and create impact.
So how long did you do the property for? The property renovation?
So those were when the kids came along. So when I was in engineering, I was in mining, and pretty much a very male-dominated sort of industry. And I was contracting in that space. But when the kids came along, so I've got two girls. They age 11 and 9. I feel like 9 going on 25, really.
It's always that second one, isn't it?
I'm glad to know we're not the only one going through that.
No, you're not.
How many have you got, Jane?
I've got 2 as well, 6 and 4. So they're still quite young. You can still control them, but it's always the second one that, is the dominant one.
Free spirit, have a mind of their own 100%.
Yeah.
But yes, after we had the girls, the economy wasn't doing as well in Western Australia, and because we really like property, I learned from a mentor on how to actually flip properties, or I learned how to buy distressed properties through bank auctions.
Interesting.
So it's very, very interesting, because you don't find these properties on realestate.com, right? They won't tell you it's necessarily a bank auction. So there was a way to do it. So we did a whole course learning that, and then paid our mentor about $20,000 a year to sort of hold our hand and teach us. I think my husband at the time sort of said, "Are we serious? Are we really doing this? Are we paying $20,000?" I was like, "Do you know how to do this?" He's like, "No." So, okay, let's pay someone and kind of learn a quicker way of, learning from their expertise effectively. I'm glad to say we kind of made that money back in the first sort of transaction in terms of, which was really good.
How long did that take, that first flip?
6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Wow, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So right after we did the course, we were, very, very serious on the research side of things to actually find these properties. And when we did, normally with distressed properties, they are quite run down. So we had to give it a bit of a makeover or a lift. So, being the engineer, I think was very organized in terms of, scheduling and stuff like that. But my idea of scheduling was literally to get all the tradespeople in this house all at the same time so that we can get the house done. Did not work, Jane. Did not work. Got some very, very disgruntled sort of tradespeople, and learned very quickly what not to do. So that particular flip probably took us about 4.5 weeks, but then the property was back on the market, and we sold it for a good price. And then we moved on to the second, third, fourth, and kept doing that. And then cash flow was a bit of a challenge, because we could only buy a couple of properties at the same time. I'm going to wait for them to be sold before we could get into more. And that's when my friend said, "Oh my God, you're really fast with your renovation. Why don't you start up your own renovation company?" I said, "Oh, it's a brilliant idea. Where do I start?" Okay. And literally that was the journey of starting another company, and had no idea where to get clients from. And so, we had stands in like the Better Homes and Gardens sort of expo, put a booth there and talked about cheap renovation, and then you attract people with sort of cheaper than cheap sort of mindset, which was interesting in itself. But it was an awesome learning experience. But after sort of trialing things a few times, we were renovating something like 30-40 properties a year. Which is great.
Okay. So how long was that whole journey from the moment you purchased the first house?
About 4 years.
4 years. Okay. And it was fun. You enjoyed it, but it's time to move on.
It was, I think we loved renovation, loved properties, but then when we realized when we started doing it as a business, it
Mm.
wasn't very fun anymore.
Fun. Yeah. Funny how that goes hand in hand.
Correct. Like, because I think like renovations, like, it brings out the creative sort of side of you to
Yeah.
think, oh, how can you actually increase value in a property and, and doing that side of things. But then when we were doing, when we were the finance person and the accounting and the business development and, the project manager and all of that, then it wasn't
Yeah.
so much fun anymore, I must
Yeah.
say. And when we moved across to Melbourne, we had from Perth, we had the opportunity to, buy a rundown home and do it up. And my husband and I were like, no, that's it. I mean, we're not renovating any more properties right now. Let's just get a nice home that we can move into.
Yeah. You've had enough. So was that around about the time when you stopped the property business and transitioned to your next business, next ventures?
So once the renovation was kind of over, because my husband actually lost his job in the height of mine bust, really. So there wasn't any more work in Western Australia around 2016. So
Right.
I think the business was definitely a saving grace at that point because Rav helped me out with that. But then he got an opportunity here in Melbourne. It was, crazy infrastructure boom from 2016 onwards here. And I think, we were just kind of following where projects were. So he came across and then I kind of, we kind of closed up shop, if you like, with
Yeah,
the
you lost your
renovation
partner.
business. Yeah, I lost my partner, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
from a business sense, he's
yeah,
still around,
correct.
hopefully. Okay,
Yeah, correct.
nice. Take us back to the beginning, I guess, if you wouldn't mind. What part of Malaysia did you come from?
From Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, okay, nice. And where did you guys meet? Where did you and Rob meet?
Oh, this is like a Bollywood love story in the making. We both studied engineering together in a local Muslim university, actually, in Malaysia.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, when I say Bollywood love story, it took us a very long time to finally get together because we were, separated over a period of time when my whole family sort of moved across here for me to finish my studies in Perth, whilst Rav was
Ah,
still back in Malaysia.
okay. So you knew each other from back then, but were you guys dating? Were you boyfriend and girlfriend then, or?
Yes, that was my parents actually had a different expectation of who I should be marrying or have as a life partner.
Yeah,
That's the thing about parents, right? They have their
yeah.
own sort of criteria or checklist, I should say.
Is it the unattainable criteria like most Asian parents have, which is like they have to be good looking like an actor, but very rich like a prince, but have a heart of a saint?
On the money there, Jane, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Unfortunately for them, he didn't quite tick all of those boxes necessarily, but definitely ticked every single one of mine in terms of being, funny and heart-centered and intelligent and all of those, all those other amazing things. But what was
Nice.
really funny was I was working in the railway sort of industry in Perth, and they were short of engineers. So I
Mm.
actually slipped across his resume to the contractor who was really struggling to meet deadlines.
Mm.
I looked at the resume and said, "Oh my God, this looks like a really good candidate. Can we interview him?" I said, "Oh, he's actually from Malaysia." He goes, "Oh, that's fine." So Rav actually organized a ticket and a trip to Perth for an interview. And they sponsored him to come across to Australia. And my parents were like, "What? How did that happen?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's effectively the story, and that's how he came across from Malaysia to Perth, literally on his own merit. Being sponsored by
Wow.
his company, and then my parents finally grew to like him,
Yeah.
and I like to say that I think he's like the most favorite son-in-law
Okay, that's a good sign.
now. Well, that's my vision of the story anyway.
Okay. So how old was he when, or were you guys when he moved here?
So this is testing my memory now. Probably about 16 years ago. So we're in our early 40s right now. So he would have probably been sort of mid to late 20s.
Nice. Okay. Was it a long courtship when he moved here?
No, not really. I think this is really interesting, Jane. How we're getting into the nitty gritty of the love story itself.
It's funny how you don't really think about it or even talk about it anymore. Like once you get married, it's so easy to just forget about all the, early buds of romance and think that life is
Yeah,
just the way it is. But sometimes it's nice, right, to
it is.
revisit that.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking me down memory lane again. No, it was an amazing courtship. Like it went from, I think it was 8 years or 9 years before we actually got married. So we had known each other for
Wow.
that long, and it was on off because we were living in two different places and parents had different expectations. Yeah, it was a bit challenging, but I think I was actually meant to get married to somebody else. It was like
Yep.
I think it was meant to be like a arranged type marriage with someone else.
Mm.
And then thankfully things didn't quite work out there. And my parents could actually see that, I was probably going to be a lot happier with the person of my choosing.
Yep.
Yeah, so it all worked out really well in the end, like really, really nice sort of love story.
Nice.
Yeah, and Rav is really feeling very blessed to actually be in Australia as well now.
So you have two girls, 9 and 11.
Yes.
What are the names and what are they like?
So we've got chalk and cheese really, and I think that seems to be the flavor with a lot of parents with two kids. So Isla is 11 and Zara's, like I said, 9 going on 25. Yeah, so I think I like to think Isla's probably a little bit more like Rav, a bit more of an introvert in terms of personality type, very structured in terms of thinking, very compliance based as well.
Mm.
Whereas Zara's like, rules are there to be meant to be broken. Whatever she say, you say A, she says B, and it's
Yeah.
constantly pushing the boundaries, which I absolutely love as well. Because the thing
Mm.
is, sometimes when we are raised, we always think to actually conform, or at least that was my sort of way of being raised.
Mm.
But she's always challenging the status quo. Which sort of puts you on your toes a little bit, but then it sort of makes you think as well, like, oh, do I really need to go down this pathway because society is expecting me to, or do we actually not?
Mm.
So it's actually quite a well, it's a nice way to be parenting when you're challenged.
Yeah, of course. And it makes you learn a lot more about yourself as well, right?
Oh, every single time,
Yeah.
every single time.
Did you always know that you were going to be a mom?
So yeah, this is also a really interesting question, Jane, because my parents were both working parents back in Malaysia.
Mm.
Mom always worked, and coming from a Southeast Asian sort of country like Malaysia, they could afford live-in nannies.
Mm.
So we always had live-in nannies that were looking after us, whilst mom and dad working really, really hard, right? That was
Mm.
what we saw. So I guess the whole idea of being a mom and having a job or business or whatever was just normal
Yep.
was just normal. But it's only until I think we came to Australia and then realized how privileged a lot of people were in terms of actually having extended time off to look after children, having 12 months, like, literally
Mm.
12 months off. When I say off, it's not really having time off, is it? Looking after kids.
Mm.
But having that sort of option just wasn't a reality from where I came from.
Mm.
And that actually just definitely gave me a different perspective as well, because sometimes you think about, you work really hard to get ahead. Then when you talk about giving influence or having influence in your children's life, you're not quite there to give them influence, but you're dependent on other people to provide that influence.
Mm.
So I think that, that was actually really interesting in itself. But I guess, yeah, I didn't think too much about it, but in the last few years, Rav and I have been talking, like, what would life be like if we didn't have kids? Did you think, like, but I felt like we didn't think. We just thought, okay, got married, got into
Mm.
business, did different things. Like, okay, let's just have kids, because you have like your parents sort of poking you in the ribs saying,
Mm.
when's it
Mm.
happening? When's it happening?
Mm. Mm.
And you just kind of just do what society kind of expects you to do. I
Yep.
think that was our story.
Yep. And you never really question beyond that as well. You sort of go with the flow, and then when it fits your timeline, then you make it happen, I guess. Was there a
Yeah.
time when you even thought about maybe it's not for me?
I think when we first got into business, yes,
Mm.
we bought the master license to start up a franchise operation in Perth,
Mm.
almost like an Uber today, but I think it was probably a little bit early for Uber back, like, 10 to
Mm.
15 years or more than 15 years ago now. Yeah, so the thinking at that time was, just get ourselves really secure, then we can
Yep.
talk about having kids. I think that
Yeah.
was the thinking.
Yep.
And I guess the other aspect of it was also the ability to influence. Like, we just thought it would be so nice to be able to raise kids a way we sort of see fit, giving them so much more opportunity that we didn't have. It'll be really nice to be able to do that. And I guess that was the thinking, to have the first child.
Mm.
And then the first child gets really lonely, and then you think maybe you need to have a second child, which is really what we did. And then we're like, okay, that's it. We can't do anymore. It just feels like really
Yeah.
demanding. But then it makes you think, right? How is it that our great grandparents used to have 9, 10, 15 children?
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
think two is
Yeah,
too
it's
much.
crazy. Yeah. It's funny. I had this conversation as well with someone, but it was a different time, right? Because my parents, each of them came from 11 siblings.
Wow.
And like my older aunties actually looked after the younger siblings as well. So it's a completely different
Mm,
family dynamic, different expectations as well, and so much lower standard, I think. I think
mm.
if if you have something to eat, you have, clothes and you have shelter, you're good enough.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And now at the age of 4, 5, it's or maybe even younger, you've got the iPads and kids talking about
Yes.
owning their own phones. And yeah, you are 100% right, Jane. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much of entitlement from such a young age.
Yeah, I know. It's a catch 22. You want to give your kids the world, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that they don't feel that entitlement as well, right? Now, what
Correct.
about career? Since you have both working parents, did you always know that you were going to be a career woman then, Tisha?
Um, yes, I think I didn't
Undoubtedly.
know. Yeah, I
Mm.
guess the thinking was, it was quite interesting. Reflecting on the conversations me and my sister used to have. So I come from a family of 3 girls, and my second sister used to say to me, "So when I grow up, I'm just going to marry someone really rich, and then I don't need to work." That was her thinking. And I remember this so clearly. And I remember saying, when I grow up, I'm going to marry someone who's really very hardworking, just like I am, and we would actually build everything from scratch, and then we'll be really successful. And it's really interesting just looking at our lives today. She almost has got exactly what she's asked for. And I
Mm,
think I'm the same as well. So,
mm,
sometimes
mm.
you cannot underestimate the power of the spoken word. Like, you say things and it can
Yes.
become a reality.
Yeah, yeah. Now, tell me a little bit more about what life is like for you right now. So, you mentioned that you are heavily involved in gender diversity, and you're also a career coach as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's yeah, I actually do lots of different things in that aspect. So in terms of work, yes, I'm a program manager with Metro Train. So I lead a team of 25 plus.
Mm,
And it's all about helping with Melbourne's big build with the boom of infrastructure project, which is awesome. I absolutely love my job of building high performing teams and helping helping people sort of achieve whatever their career goals may be from a work sense. But I
mm,
guess outside of that as well, knowing that I've got 2 girls, and also just I guess experiencing different things throughout my life of being in one, a male dominated sort of area, but two, also a migrant and a woman of color. I can see that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in creating a more diverse, equal and inclusive sort of workplace
mm,
and environment, not just in a work sense but just anywhere in the
mm.
community. So we started up Grid Leadership as a certified social enterprise now, where we deliver inclusive leadership programs where we help leaders walk a mile in someone else's shoe. Because
Mm,
that's the thing, right? Like, people go, yep, yep, that's the right thing to do. I know. But the thing is, most people don't even realize that the biases that they currently carry,
mm.
like, you think it's normal because that's your perspective, because that's the environment that you grew up in. But to
Yep.
really feel what it's like to see from a different point of view, you need to
Mm,
almost walk in their shoe. So we
yep.
use virtual reality as a way to give people that experience. And we feel that when people, when you have your emotional string sort of tugged, then you
Mm,
go, okay, it goes from heart to head, and then it
mm.
goes, okay, yes, maybe I need to do things a little bit differently. But until then, you just using your brain to think about logic, but it doesn't actually go into the heart sort of
Touch
space.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. So we do a lot of unconscious bias sort of training work, and we also create platforms for women to be seen and heard. Like, there's so
Mm,
much of mentoring that women go through today, but I feel personally that it's not like they need to be mentored more, but rather they just need to be given a platform to shine.
mm.
um, Women just want to be seen. They want to be heard. It's not like they're broken that you need to fix them. They just need to be given opportunities. So our programs are really tailored towards creating that sponsorship sort of arrangement between women leaders and people within the organization to give them a voice. and a platform, for them to shine.
That's awesome. What's catalyzed this, and who is we in this scenario?
When I say we, it's yeah. So although I'm the founder of Grit Leadership, I don't do the leadership training and coaching per se. So when I say we, if I've partnered with some amazing
It's the
women.
royal, yeah.
Yeah, and they deliver the leadership training and coaching aspect. And I guess the other part of what Grit does as well is because we've partnered with Flourish Girl, which is a charity empowering young women. They run resilient programs in high schools. So that's where all of our surplus funds from our coaching programs actually go to. So we support Mandy through Flourish Girl.
Nice. I love that. I'd love to be involved. Yeah, let me know a little bit more information, please, after this, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we'll do. But and I think your question on why, I think at the end of the day, or what's the catalyst for this, is that I feel like you can't be what you can't see. Ultimately, if you want great things to happen, people need role models.
Yes.
And I think that was evident for me when I had my two girls as well. One part of me was like, am I doing the right thing to actually pursue business, set a not-for-profit, have a career, juggle a family, do all of those things? Or do I be mom? Mom, like, just like have time just for them. And it was very conflicting, Jane, like to think of, what is the right thing to be doing.
Oh yes. I'm very well aware of this conflict. Please tell me more.
But I think the realization I had was that I needed to follow my purpose as to what was really driving me. And I found it really hard to be a hypocrite to my kids, to actually say to them, you can be anything, you can do anything in the world's your oyster, just go for it. And then you look at yourself in the mirror and going, am I doing that?
Yeah.
Am I walking the talk here?
Yeah.
And I think that's when it really dawned upon me to say, you know what, no. And we have some really not intense, but really open sort of conversations with the kids to actually say, this is my dream. Like, I want to help more people become financially free, and we do that to decide. So we don't do career coaching per se, but we talk about how we can help professional women sort of achieve or do more outside their 9 to 5. But I also believe in the whole giving back aspect, so working with Grit and Flourish Girl. But then the other aspect of it is I love my engineering stuff and building high performing teams. So, my kids say, but Mama, it seems like you have so many jobs. And I'm like, yes, but you can do whatever you put your mind to. So it's easier to have those conversations with them because I'm doing it. Am I doing it right all the time? 100% not, Jane. Like, I'm still a work in progress, but I believe that I'm driven by progression rather than perfection.
Of course.
So that's really the conversations that we have at home. You can't be what you can't see, so you got to be that role model.
Oh, good on you, Teeshal. And I think it's probably made a little bit easier as well to be a role model to your kids now that your girls are a little bit bigger and they can understand it more as well.
Yeah.
Do you find that they ask a little bit more challenging questions or trickier questions?
They do. I mean, obviously, sometimes they say, "Oh, why are you rushing off to this meeting? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you playing with me?" And sometimes I feel really bad, and I go, "Oh my God, am I doing the wrong thing?" You're in conflict. But one thing that we have done with the kids ever since they were young was vision boards. We've always done vision boards every year with the kids when they were probably the age of 5.
Okay.
And it was quite funny though. Zara's first vision board, I kid you not, had pictures of all the different lollies that you can find in the world. And I laughed when I looked at this. I was like, what is this, Zara? We're talking about vision boards and the things that you want out of your life and different experiences. She goes, yeah, that's right. I wanna try every single lolly there is out there.
Pleasure. It's all about pleasure.
Correct. But I guess that the idea with that is to actually be really clear about what you're wanting out of life. Like having that clarity. And it might change from year to year, but that's okay. But you kind of almost have something to strive for, but work together as a family. So as a family, we all know what we're working towards. I'm not saying it works every single time, but it does help with the conversation. So when we have dreams, we have goals, we've got work that needs to sort of back that up. Right?
Yeah.
It makes it easier to have those conversations with the kids and go, that holiday that we're trying to plan here, that in order to make that happen, I need to do a little bit of work here to make that a reality. And so the kids will always say, oh, are you doing this work so we can do that, make that holiday? I'm like 100%. Oh, yeah, just
Go, mom.
Yeah, just go.
That is
just
so
go.
awesome. That's such a great advice. So when do you do this? In the beginning of the year, end of the year?
Yeah, end of the year is when we start, start collecting photos and stuff. And thanks to Canva now, you probably don't even need to.
Yeah.
That's what we used to do. We used to grab a whole lot of magazines from the op shops
Yeah.
and cut
Yeah.
pictures and stick on a piece of paper. But now the kids absolutely love Canva, so they can grab literally any type of image they want. And
Yeah.
then we literally blow it up as an A3 and got it stuck on our walls.
Oh, beautiful. So you would do it individually or together at the same time?
Individually. So everyone's got their own vision board.
Wow. And that vision board is something that they want to accomplish for the year or just their
Yeah.
future?
I mean, it's hard sometimes for kids to actually think of future, right? So it's right now, today, what I want. So it's quite interesting. Like as you know, this year, Zara actually had on her vision board petting horses, like literally pictures of her and horses. She had pictures of slides in pools, and then she had pictures of a whole lot of the type of toys, which was quite funny. But though, and when we wanted to make certain decisions about holidays or doing certain things and what should we do, it's like, oh, remember on my vision board it says that we need to go to the place to go and pet the horses, and I really want to hang out with the horses. So it's really interesting because once kids actually have it there, they go, oh wow, if I've got it there, it means it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it really helps with the conversation around how do we make that goal a reality.
So powerful. Good on you for instilling that at such a young age as well. That's a life skill, that I wish I'd learned. Good on you. So you're juggling a few things, I would say career, but one is not, a few things up in the air. You're juggling family as well. What are you doing to make it work? Any certain things that you do? Any certain rituals?
Yeah. I think I can't do anything without a calendar, that's for sure. Everything's literally diarized. But having said that, I think, sometimes you feel like things are not possible. Again, you can't be what you can't see. I think it really helps when you have those role models in your life. So for me today, really, really blessed. I've got an amazing person I call my mentor. Like, he's financially secure and has been for the last 20 years of his life. Amazing. But he also has got an amazing career working for NASA as a chief engineer.
Wow.
And then he's on board of directors, and then he also has got his own not-for-profits and got amazing relationship with his wife and children. I look at the type of life he's got and I go, it's possible. It's possible.
Yep.
So I think for me, it was like looking at where people are at, earning their influence in my life, and then literally following what they do to actually get there.
Yes.
So I think when it comes back to routine for me, I'm a morning person. I feel, you've got to give yourself a lot of self-care and love before you can give it to the world outside. So I start pretty early in the morning. It used to be 5 o'clock, but I must say in winter, it's probably moved to like 5:45, sometimes 6 o'clock. But the idea is to actually fit in a morning sort of workout. And then followed by like a gratitude journal that I write in, do some meditation, listen to podcasts, read some book, a little bit of my book, and then I'm kind of like ready to start the day, and that's when I wake the kids up and then start the morning. Because I almost feel like when you feel like you're winning, like the first thing in the day, everything else is like a bonus.
Put in place. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So it starts at 5:45 at the moment. What time do you wake up the girls?
Yeah, they're probably up around 7:30.
7:30. So you have about 2 hours to yourself.
Yeah, correct.
2 hours of morning walk, journaling.
No, morning. I do a HIIT training workout in the house.
Oh, HIIT training. Sorry. HIIT training.
And then
meditation.
Yeah.
Journaling.
And then
do you stick to those specific timelines as well?
I definitely
sequence?
Yes, I try to. Sometimes it goes a little bit out of whack. Something happens, I wake up a little bit later and stuff like that. If that happens, then if I'm on the way to on the train to work, then I will fit me in my gratitude journal whilst I'm in the train. But I do them on a daily basis.
Are you able to share with us what you list on your journal? Is it just the 3 things that you're grateful of and 3 things that you look forward to?
No, very, very good question. So I think when I first learned about this, I was like, oh my God, how many times do I say I'm really grateful for my kids, my husband, and we live in a nice house, right? Like you can only write that so many times and then you go, I don't know what else to write. So I think what I really learned was, write 3 things three good things that actually happened to you yesterday. So literally, my gratitude journal is always from about the day before, and it could be as simple as we played an amazing board game with the kids. That was a plus point. Number two, I heard from someone that I haven't spoken to in years, and we had a great catch up. I spoke to my aunt, who lives in Malaysia that I haven't spoken to in a long time. Or we actually tried this amazing cuisine because we went out for dinner somewhere. So it's like, it sounds like really small things, but it's those little things that just, I don't know, that creates that joy and gratitude because, because good things actually happen to you.
Yeah. And it's also, you're training that muscles where you can catch more positive experiences and magnify them, I meant, and not really minimizing, but you can deal with the less positive things as well.
100%. And it's really interesting, right? Like when I've been journaling now for a few years, ever since I think COVID happened, like got into this whole new routine that I shared with you. And I was trying to encourage my kids to do it, but they won't listen. And funnily enough, like 6 months ago, Isla, my older ones, went shopping. They're like, oh, can I go buy a journal? I'm like, a journal? Because what do you need that for? Because I need to do my gratitude journal. So I didn't say anything, had it. And she writes in there, right? And it's not daily for her. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's once in the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but it doesn't really matter. Again, it's back on the thing that she sees mom doing it.
Yes.
And she does it.
Yeah.
Again, it can't be what you can't see. So I think it's all about just being that example for whoever that you're trying to actually role model for. And I think sometimes we think they're not listening, but they actually see what you do.
What about meditation? Any specific things that you do on a daily basis?
Well, just really YouTube, Google sort of 10-minute meditation. You get so many amazing things, the feeds that actually pop up. I get a little bit bored, so you're literally trialing different things every time.
Okay, all right.
Person. But I think the good thing with those, or what I enjoy about the meditation side is the manifestation, because I feel like we don't dream enough. So life's all about I got to get up, got to make the sandwiches with the kids, and I got to get to work, and I got to do this. You're doing like literally the grind, like on a daily basis, right? But then you don't step up and go, what am I doing all this for? Like, what's the bigger picture? Where am I going, right? Because we get so stuck in the grind.
Yeah.
And I find like this like when you're doing meditation, there's so many different ways of doing it. The one that I actually enjoy is the manifestation one, where you sort of picture your life, like where it's at, what are you doing, like what's giving you so much joy, whether it's opening your home up to this beautiful ocean in front of you, or you're making this trip, missionary sort of trips to actually give back to people that are underprivileged, or just reading books or impacting lives, like whatever it might be for you. But it's when you actually visualize those things, I don't know, for me, it just gets me very excited. So then I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm actually very excited to do all those mundane stuff because I kind of know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, the purpose gets bigger and bigger and more real as well. Wow,
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct.
Thanks so much for sharing that. That's so powerful.
You're very, very welcome. I think I was talking to someone recently about her dreams, and it was actually really sad in a way when she said, I said, oh, so did you think you would have the life that you have right now? She said, absolutely not. I said, what's changed? And she said, I actually thought I'd be living by the ocean. I thought I'd be, spending a lot more time in nature. I thought. I shared all these things. And I said, so where's life like for you now from where it was? She goes, complete opposite. I don't have any of those things.
Yeah.
And then I said, so what's happened to your dream? She said, I've shrunk them. I said, what do you mean? Then she said, oh, life just happens. And then you look at reality and you go, oh, I don't think that can happen. So I might as well make the dream a bit smaller. So then you don't feel like you disappoint yourself when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So then you start dreaming small, you start living small, you start playing small. And then I'm like, is this life? Like, are you happy?
Yeah.
And she goes, no, I'm not happy, but I feel like I have no choice. I'm like, no, we all have choices.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. I mean, this is one thing my mentor says to me time and time again. He goes, don't let anyone steal your dreams. Don't let anyone steal your dreams, because the conditioning that we have in the society that we live in, that they define success by so many different ways, right? But don't let anyone steal your dreams, because your dreams are your dreams, and you can make it a reality when you. I don't know, personally, I feel is that if you're plugging in with the right people, with the right environment who lift and inspire and uplift you, then it is all possible. But first, you absolutely just need to know what that is.
That is so interesting that you mentioned that, because I think we all have that one person who is defeated by life and just chose the victim role because it's the easier way out, right? Because that means you don't really need to do anything and it's always somebody else's fault. And I think for me personally, it's just like it's a tug of war between, come on, just I feel like I want to shake them and just come on, grab, that horn, that life by the horn again. But at what stage do you keep doing that if someone's not willing to step out of that universe as well? So I don't know. It's interesting that you mentioned that. It just made me reflect, with the very situations that I have in my life too.
But I feel it's like a bit like the crab analogy. When you're in a bucket with crabs and one crab tries to get out of the basket, then the other crabs sort of pull the crab down, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't have a scenario where crabs are trying to get out of the basket and every crab's trying to help the other one get out the basket. Everyone's trying to pull the crab down and stay here with me, don't leave the basket, right?
Yeah.
And that whole thinking is because people feel very uncomfortable when other people are doing different things.
Yeah.
So
it makes them look inward as well and think, oh, crap, what have I done?
Correct.
Pun intended.
Correct. No, it's a good one. It's a good one. But actually, on that though, I am really curious as well, Jane. What drives you? Because you obviously run, the winning. You run this amazing podcast, Breadwinning Mums. You've got a business as well. You're juggling kids as well. What drives you to do what you do?
Oh dear, I need to think about this now.
Yeah, but you're the person always asking other people questions.
I know, that's right. It's a trick. It's because so I then have to answer the questions myself, right? I think the biggest part of it is like what you said. It's to be a role model to my kids. Whenever I have that conflict between, do I do this because I want to keep growing as a person, or do I go home and stay at home and be mom? I just think, okay, what do I want my kids to do when they're in my position? Do I want them to just keep giving themselves to the kids because they think that that's in the kids' best interest? Or do I want them to grow and be the best that they could be? And I always go back to the second one. And that's when I give myself permission and say, no, because by being a better person, I'll be a better parent. And hopefully they'll be able to see that and do the same thing as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking of this story that I heard about this lady who had 3 kids. She was a single mom, and she gave her kids all love, all the encouragement, all the praise in the world. And when they grew up, people thought they'll be the most confident kids who could actually achieve whatever that they wanted out of life, right? And it was further from the truth. And you're like, I'm very confused, but he came from a very loving environment. How is that? So the one son basically said, because every time my mom looks at a mirror, she talks about, how ugly she looks, how fat she is, how crooked her nose is, and all of that. But everybody says I look like my mom. So if my mom thinks she doesn't look all that great, what hope do I actually have? And the mom used to actually get invitations from her friends to try rock climbing or different cuisines and doing different things. And mom used to say, that's not for me. That's for other people. That's not for me. And the son said, my mom's like my rock. She can do anything in the world. But if she couldn't do all of those things, what makes me think that I can? Like, where I'm going with this, Jane, right? Again, it's back to the fact that sometimes we feel by just telling our kids, do this. They don't listen. They just watch what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Kids don't listen to you. They watch what you do. Exactly. But I don't think that's limited to like a binary choice of either working mom or stay-at-home mom. I think there are lots of wonderful stay-at-home mom that really makes great role models as well. It's more about how you see yourself and what you do with yourself as well, because you can fulfill your potential being a stay-at-home mom by doing other things as well, right? But yeah, I just like, for me personally, I find a lot of joy just growing as a person outside of the family environment. But also I feel like I can contribute a lot more as well within the family environment when I do that.
Yeah. I honestly salute moms who actually stay at home. I couldn't do it.
I
almost felt like I ran away.
I know. So stay-at-home mom, hats off to you. But remember, live your potential as well.
I think that's the key thing, like just having absolute clarity of what you're wanting out of your life.
Yeah.
and then go for that, and don't let circumstances of life sort of pull you down to think this
Yeah.
is reality and this is just
Yeah.
how life is going to be. I think that's
Yeah.
not the case.
And don't make the role of a mom as an excuse not to grow beyond that as well. Right.
Correct.
So, Teeshal, if you can go back to your younger self when you just graduated from high school, knowing all of the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you know now, what advice would you give the young Teeshal?
Dream big. It would be that, just dream really, really big, because I think it's going back to the fact that you only know what you know. When we grew up in the environment that we were in, we saw our uncles and aunts, our parents having a certain type of lifestyle, and you thought that was normal. And you think, yep, that's what I'll strive for. Anything that was beyond that, you almost go, that's actually not logical. I don't think that's going to happen. But you don't know any better, right? And I think now, having seen what I've seen and being exposed and having, the influence of amazing people in my life, I go, anything's possible when you actually have the right guidance around you. So I feel dream big. There, you have one life, you gotta make it count. So yeah, just do whatever it is that you want to do. So don't dream small, play big.
Yeah, awesome. And one last question: what's your alpha mom song?
Okay, this is going to sound really geeky, Jane. I feel like the songs change all the time depending on what my kids have got on Spotify. So it's whatever that they've got on, they play it like a million times and then becomes a song that's in my head, right? And I'm going to say geeky because my go-to are literally podcasts. Like when things are happening, like I don't really listen to music. I just listen to a whole lot of podcasts.
I love it. Okay, what's your favorite podcast at the moment?
I think I'm going to be adding yours now onto my list very soon.
Thank you. Shout out.
But I think the thing is, part of the mentoring group I'm part of, where we're associated with professionals who've created financial freedom from a very young age. They've created their own sort of podcast that they do of success stories, and because I subscribe to that, I get a whole lot of podcasts that I do listen to. So it's not necessarily mainstream stuff. It's just associated with the business we're building and the association we've got.
Actually, one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because I was listening to another podcast called Working Wife, Happy Life. The host is Bethany Baines. She was an early Googler, I think, and then she moved on to various other roles. But sadly, I don't think she has updated much of her podcast since, I think, end of last year. And that's what sort of prompted me. And just thought, why don't I just start it? Because it was such an important topic and we can all benefit from it as well. And like what you said, you become what you can see, and these days what you can hear as well.
Correct. I don't think there's a more fitting time to actually have more and more podcasts. Really, 100%. You're on the money there, Jane. I think it's fantastic that you've created such an amazing platform for working moms or moms that are in business who are juggling lots of different things to actually get inspiration from other people that are on that same journey as well, so they don't feel like they're alone.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is to give yourself permission. Thank you so much for being here, Teeshal. Really appreciate it. If there is one thing that our listeners can take away from this conversation, what would that be?
I think if you talk about giving yourself permission, I think it starts with giving yourself permission to dream. I challenge every single listener to sort of, have that 20-minute block in their diary, open up a canvas and start to write down, draw, do whatever it is that comes to mind of the ideal life that they want to have if money and time was no longer an issue. Because I think the fact is, we're always talked about, from a young age, we talk about what you're going to be when you grow up. And we all, what are you going to be? What are you going to be? So you almost feel like your job, your role, your title defines you, but we're more than that, right? But so I think the question that people don't ask is, what type of life do you want to lead, as opposed to what you want to be? So I think if you can sort of reflect on the type of life you want to lead, a lot of things become a lot clearer for you. And then all you do is actually have that clarity. The right people will walk in your life. And once you're associated with the right people, I think it's an infinite game.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. That is wonderful.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity to share with your listeners as well, Jane. Love the work that you're doing.
Pleasure. See you next time.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. Please subscribe and leave us some feedback so we can continue to make the show better for you. If you know a fellow breadwinning mum, please share the show so we can cheer each other on. Until next time.